Pleiadian Master Teachings, Concepts from the Realms of Light. Channeled by Michael Love. Sacred Light Publishing, 2022. Chapter 11, Sovereignty. Part 1 of 3. As we discussed in Chapter 1, the greatest level of enlightenment is to realize who and what one truly is and to start being this. You are the very essence and consciousness of the universe dwelling in a human body, as you. Therefore, we could say your true identity is God expressing itself as you. Remember, consciousness is singular, and this same identity applies to all beings, and there is no being that is not this. You are the highest being in all existence, and no other being is above you. Therefore, you are completely sovereign, and no one has authority over you. Before one can be truly sovereign, one must be aware of the caveats of this divine way of being. While societies may have tens of thousands of laws to follow, there is only one law for the sovereign to follow. The Pleiadians call this one law the Great Instruction. This great law is the law of love. This love does no harm and fulfills all other laws. When one adheres to this one universal law, they will be respecting and abiding by the rules of their collective society by default. Human law systems often say something is someone else's fault, so blame is the name of the game on earth. The Pleiadians do not use the concept of fault or blame but instead, use the term responsibility. Both universal law and sovereignty are based on the divine concept of real responsibility, and as consciousness levels and heart levels expand, this becomes one's primary way of being. One caveat of being sovereign is that while no other has authority over you, you also do not have authority over any other. This is the law of free will, and since this universe is based on free will must always be honored. Some may think that sovereignty is about authority, control, and power, but it is more about energy and, specifically, human energy. It is said in Pleiadian sciences that a human being has more power inside than all the stars in the universe combined. This is the powerful energy we are speaking of and the most desired power in the universe. It is important to understand that while this is a free will universe, it is also a contractual universe where all things occur by contracts and agreements. These contracts are backed by real universal power that binds one to the contract. Since you are the highest being in the universe, built-in universal law says no other being can manipulate or control you without your permission. On the other hand, one being, or group of beings, can gain full authority and control over others if contractual permission for this is granted. First of all, know that only a low-vibrational, unconscious being that is unhealthy energetically would be narcissistic and selfish enough to try to manipulate or control another being. These types of beings exist physically and non-physically, and since they have such a low amount of energy and power, they constantly work to steal energy from other beings. This energy we are speaking of is the vital life force that flows between all beings via energetic connections called energy cords. Even these low vibrational energy stealers must abide by the universal law of contractual agreement and gain permission to use someone's life force. Even stranger sounding is that this permission has to be given by the one who is about to have their energy manipulated. Why would someone give their permission to have their energy manipulated and used this way? And how is this contractual permission granted? The first and most obvious way to grant consent for another to use one's energy is simply by being connected to them. Just forming an energetic connection equates to agreeing to the energetic connection, and this agreement is a binding universal contract. This being connected takes on many forms. For example, an energetic cord is connected when one resonates vibrationally with another by being in the same space at the same time with them, by thinking about or focusing on them, and lastly, by being emotionally attached to them or something close to them. These energetic cords operate in a quantum way outside of space-time, so any perceived distance or time between two connected beings is irrelevant. Regarding physical attachments, be aware that any heirloom or physical object carries energy from its past owner, and it is wise to know what this energy is. If one is not certain, the physical object should be removed from one's space, and any energetic attachment to it must also be removed. Often, these heirlooms are passed down through family lines or given as gifts and may have a high emotional or monetary value attached to them. However, the only true value these have is their energetic value. So regardless, it's wise to take inventory of all relics stored or lying around and to know the energy and intent behind them. Stored phone numbers, texts, chats, messages, pictures, videos, music, etc. also carry the energy of other beings, their connections to others, and so on. This is a bit to keep up with, but one must keep themselves energetically clear of unhealthy, energetic cords. All data stored on mobile devices, social media connections, friends, and files stored, accessed, or transmitted on a computer amplify energetic connections because of the electronic circuitry and exponentially make the energy manipulation from others even more powerful. Unhealed low vibrational beings often send electronic messages that would normally provoke a negative emotional reaction, and unfortunately, close, unhealed family members or so-called loved ones can be the worst for sending these messages to an ascending family member. The longer these types of messages are, the more negative they are and the more energy they drain off. These messages can sometimes be a bit threatening, usually stating that the ascending being has lost their mind and they must return to normal at once or suffer consequences. If a newly ascending being receives a low vibrational message like this, the first inclination is to be shocked, fearful, and hurt. The ascending being then may ask themselves, how can the one who sent this message be so cruel? In the early stages of ascension, one may retaliate from negative emotions and send a countermessage in defense. The negative energy is then amplified exponentially. But worse, vital life force energy begins flowing from the ascending being into the other via an energetic cord. This energetic drain is experienced as the lowest possible emotional vibrations, and the physical body begins unmanifesting and deteriorating rapidly. Have no fear because the sovereign is here. The fifth dimensional master of sovereignty can deal with this situation quickly if it arises and is not affected by it energetically. First, the master of sovereignty knows that lower vibrational beings are not yet healed energetically, so their nature is to not always operate from true love, not to allow free will, and not to always want what is best for others, including their so-called loved ones. These low vibrational unhealed beings steal energy by default. Secondly, the master of sovereignty does not place blame because it is understood that unhealed lower vibrational beings have no idea what's really happening here beyond noticing they feel revitalized after a negative reaction is achieved by their intimidating message. What's more, these low vibers also have no awareness that they are themselves being used as pawns by other low vibrational beings in a vast energetic network created to drain human energy. Third, the master of sovereignty knows that low vibrational beings usually do not like seeing others moving away from the third dimensional norm or doing better than them. This is because every being is a reflective, energetic mirror for all others, and when third dimensional humans see another doing well or changing even in a positive way, they are forced to look at themselves and see that maybe they're not doing so well in comparison. At this point, they often attack using various strategies to try and bring the ascending being back down to their level energetically. It's easier and safer for them to attack from a distance, and a modern electronic message is a perfect medium. Fourth, the master of sovereignty knows that connecting and communicating this way sparks an energetic war, and one's life force is the primary spoil of this war. Therefore, one golden rule is not to open or read these messages. Another important rule is always to remain silent. In this energetic war of words, the one who speaks first loses. Above all, the sovereign master knows that the primary rule is not to be connected in the first place to beings who resonate this way. So if necessary, set up safe, energetic barriers, block the connections, and cut all the cords. This immediately removes contractual consent by connection for energetic manipulation. Afterward, change focus, don't give that connection another thought, and move on. This is your sovereign right. Before you move on, just make sure you delete the files, the messages, and the numbers, or the energy will still flow off of them. Ascension and sovereignty require fortitude and wisdom, but remember, at any point, any low vibrational being can transmute their manipulating energies into pure unconditional love. However, this evolutionary process usually takes multiple lifetimes to achieve. The masters teach that in practical everyday terms, the odds of this transmutation or transformation to love process occurring this year or even in this incarnation are very slim. People don't change this profoundly or this quickly as a rule, and this fact is just something to come to terms with. One adult starseed said, "My own mother is doing this to me, don't I have to allow her controlling behavior because she is my mother?" We say, honor your mother and father, however, they must honor you similarly. One must not allow themselves to be intimidated into any consensual contract under any form of low vibrational guilt, fear, or illusionary obligation. The important work for you is to keep your focus on yourself, and it is always irrelevant what another is doing. Before we close this topic, keep in mind that if another is not fully encouraging and supporting your free will to be whatever you desire, regardless of their relationship to you, do they really love you to begin with? You know the answer, so think about it for a moment, then be true to yourself and act accordingly.